Oh, hello. Welcome to another Tabletop Impulse video. In today's video, we are looking at the Imperial Navy. So, last time we looked at the Euclidean Star Striders. This time we're looking at their kind of public sector cousins in the Imperial Navy. Security and Seek and Destroy. Security is still great, but as I discussed in the Star Striders video, it struggles into the dark. They've taken away two of the best ops from security. So maybe in Into the Dark you want to take Seek and Destroy. I think maybe the Navy have the offensive power to do Seek and Destroy. On an overworld board, I would still rather take security though. In terms of the team, you get a Navis Sergeant at Arms, and he has 2/3 builds. So you can take him as a package with a Navis Shotgun and a Navis Hatchet. You'll never do this. Or you can take him with any combination of a bolt pistol or heirloom auto pistol matched up with a chainsword or a power weapon. And we'll talk more about which is better or when we're looking at his data card. You then get your operatives, the Armsman, the Axejack, the CAT unit, the Endurant, the Geist Skull, the Grenadier. You pick two gunners of the three. So you've got the choice of the Las Volley, which is a unique weapon that we'll look at, and old standbys like the Melter Gun and the Plasma Gun. You've also got the Hatchcutter, the Surveyor, and the Void Jammer. Notice, though, that you're limited to two gunners, as I said. You can't take more than one of anything else except for the Navis Armsman, and you can only include a Geist Skull if you include the Void Jammer, and you can only include a CAT if you include the Surveyor. Okay, so you have to take the pets and the handlers as a team. I think that most people will run this happily out of one box, to be fair. You're forced to take an Armsman, and then you'll take the Axejack, the CAT, the Endurant, the Geist Skull, the Grenadier, two gunners. I'm told you have to kit bash slightly to assemble two gunners by not quite following the instructions and putting the arms of the second gunner on a body that the instructions tell you to use as for an Armsman. But I'm sure it's very easy to do. I've not had the hands on the plastic myself to properly review that. And then the Hatchcutter, the Surveyor, the Void Jammer. The second box is only going to be necessary if you want that third gunner option to swap in and out, or if you're intending to swap any of your specialists out for more Armsmen. Which, given the two of your specialists are the CAT and the Geist Skull, I can see why you'd be tempted to swap them out for full-blooded Armsmen. We'll look more in depth at how they work on their cards, and we'll have a discussion there about whether I think it's better or not to swap them for an Armsman. But certainly, I think you can run them perfectly well as a one-box team and not be hobbling yourself too much. Right, abilities. So compared to the Euclidean Star Striders that I reviewed last on the channel, these have some very simpler abilities. They're a simpler ability team. They got two main things. So Breach and Clear is their main thing. Once per turning point, when a friendly Imperial Navy Breacher operative is activated, you can use this ability. If you do so, select one other ready friendly Imperial Navy Breacher operative visible to and within blue of that operative that is eligible to be activated. Until the end of the turning point, those operatives are treated as having GA2. When the first operative's activation ends, you must select the second operative, even if it's not of the same type, to fulfill group activation requirements. So what this lets you do is group activate two models that don't have to be of the same type and have a profile of a GA1 on their profile, and you can do that every single turning point, so you do that 4 times in the game if you want. You won't necessarily want to do it every turning point because it's a double-edged sword, right? You will have less activations, so therefore you're potentially you're going to lose activation control. You can't mill activations to force your opponent to move his more interesting pieces. On the other hand, it will let you be able to move two models without your opponent getting a chance to react, and it will potentially deny them a turn of Overwatch if you're playing against an elite team, which is pretty good. Void Armor, you're straight up immune to the Splash critical hit special rule, and if a shooting attack is made against you with Blast or Torrent, or makes a shooting attack with anything that uses Detonate, in the roll defense dice step of that shooting attack, you can reroll one of your defense dice, or if you're the Grenadier, you can reroll 2 of your defense dice. This is really nice to have. It's not something you're going to play around particularly. I would point out it's going to make them really good in the Gallodark when people are going to be tempted to load up on those weapons, Splash, Blast and Torrent, to get the critical 5 up. And so this is the first of many things that they have, which means that they're going to be really quite good in Gallowdark maps. And it's still useful in the overworld, but it's less, you know, it's less interesting than it is on Gallowdark, where it counteracts those exact weapons that have been given pretty enormous buffs. Also, I call it a stealth buff to the Grenadier just because it's not noted on the Grenadier's data card, and I feel like it's something that you're often going to forget because, you know, being hit by a splash or a blast or a torrent doesn't happen that often, and so it's not going to be at the forefront of your mind that your Grenadier gets to re-roll or 2 dice, you know, which is pretty good. So try and remember that, I guess, if you're playing this team, right? Or if you have some kind of cheat sheet, then note it down next to the Grenadier on the cheat sheet that he gets an improved version of Void Armor. Right, the Sergeant at Arms, which is your leader. So he has choices, and they are meaningful choices with his weapons. Let's look at his basic stat block first. So standard movement, APL 2, GA 1, 3 defense, a 4-up save and 8 wounds. I would totally ignore the shotgun and hatchet loadout. That's totally pointless. He has a choice of 2 combat weapons and a choice of 2 ranged weapons. They're not paired. So first of all, he chooses between the chainsword and the power weapon. It's not a standard chainsword. It does have ceaseless, so it is re-rolling 1s. But I much prefer the power weapon, I think, as the combat pick. Simply because in combat, unlike shooting, it's not about the sum of your dice. It's about how much damage you can front load. Because if you're in combat, you've got a fair chance of dying, right? Unless you kill the opponent first. So I think with it's the standard thing with the power weapon that you hope to get 2 crits with that lethal 5-up, right? And you hope to be able to do 12 damage and take some hits in between those 2 hits, right? So it's the power weapon that you're going to go for. Whereas the chainsword's only going to get you 10. And you haven't, crucially, got the lethal, because the threshold's not that much different between 10 and 12 in terms of the kind of levels of wounds that things have. Although there are some 12 wound things out there, I think. Regular, like, I've kind of erased Space Marines from my brain because the intercessors are absurd, but like regular Space Marines are 12 wounds, aren't they? Like Grey Knights and things. Could have checked that. Could know this stuff. Run a kill team channel. I'm sure there is stuff with 12 wounds, but even if not for the threshold thing, the fact that power weapon has lethal 5-up, that's a better buff than ceaseless, in my opinion, because in combat especially, those crits are so important, because they're harder to parry, and you need to front load your damage. When it comes for ranged, I haven't mathed it out properly, because I'm not that guy, but my feeling is the heirloom auto pistol is slightly better. Both roll 4 dice, okay, both hit on 3s. The bolt pistol does 3-4 damage, the heirloom auto pistol does 2-3 damage, but the heirloom auto pistol is both balanced and lethal 5-up. So you're getting to do rerolls to hit, and you're getting to crit on 5s. I think, statistically speaking, and I haven't modelled it properly. If you have, let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. I think the heirloom auto pistol is going to do more damage over the course of all of its dice than the bolt pistol. It's just my thought. So I would probably go for heirloom auto pistol and power weapon if I was assembling one of these guys. Although, to be fair, doing damage with your pistol is not really the point of them. The point of them is the command breach that they have. So at the start of the first strategy phase, you can select the attack order or defense order strategic ploy, which I've reprinted here for convenience so we can talk about them, and you can use that strategic ploy without spending any command points. Attack order, you put a token down, and each time a breach operative fights in combat or makes a shooting attack within blue of the token, in the roll attack dice step attack combat or shooting attack, you can re-roll any or all of your attack dice results with 1 result, e.g. results of 2. At the end of the turning point, remove the attack order token. You can't use it in the same turn as you use defense order. Defense order is exactly the same, except that you are re-rolling defense dice results of 1 result. This is pretty strong. First of all, it's the first thing to say. I think it's particularly strong in Into the Dark, where you're going to have an objective in a room, and if you put the token down right in the middle of the room, you've basically put the order in the entire room, because the rooms look to be quite small. But it's still going to be good in the overworld. Again, you're going to use it with objectives. I feel like Attack Order is the one that you choose to be free, because I feel like that's the one you're going to use more often than not. Don't worry, just because you made Attack Order free doesn't mean that you shouldn't, like if it comes up for one turn, spend the 1 CP for Defense Order. But this might be one of those things where, as you play and you find that actually they feel quite fragile and you want to use Defense Order more, that might be a thing. But my initial read is that you want to use Attack Order as your free one. Maybe use Defense Order in turn 1. I don't know. Because you can still spend the CP to use it. The Armsman. So the Armsman is GA2. You are forced to take 1 Armsman, so his GA becomes irrelevant. If you want to have 2, you'll need to not take something else, and we'll talk a little bit more about what you might not take or not. But you are forced to take 1 Armsman. The Armsman's quite good in combat. Hitting on 4s, 3 hits, 3 4s, not bad. His shotgun's pretty bad. Right, hitting on 4s, 3 up, 3 3 at close range is it's fine. You might kill something like standard human sized with that at close range. At long range, it's really just giving you something to do and dice to roll if you get stuck at long range, but it's really not worth worrying about, right? If you literally got nothing better to do, you can do a long range shot and try and get a wound or 2 off somebody, but it's not really worth your while, alright? That's the Navis Armsman. And so, yeah, they're going to particularly suck in the overworld, where there's going to be more combat happening at long range compared to on Gallowdark, where they're more likely to get into that nice range of red, right? Axejack, his thing is he has a power axe. That's basically it. When I say power axe, it's not a power axe, it's a power weapon. It doesn't go slowly and have even more strength. But he has a power weapon, which is good. He has some buffs as well on the turn he charges. So if he performs a charge action, he's emboldened, which gives him feel no pain, essentially, on disgustingly resilient, effectively. So 5 up, D6, wounds not lost. These kind of abilities in combat are really, really strong because there are not normally any saves in combat. So you definitely want to try and make sure he charges as averse to be charged. He also has the option for Wade In for 2 AP. So perform a free charge and then a free fight. And if you perform both of the actions, you gain Reap 2 as a critical hit rule. Reap's a really weak crit rule, though, that very rarely comes up. When it does, you may as well do it. Right, you're not really losing anything by having this ability or paying 2 EP for actions that would sum to 2 AP anyway. But Reap's, take it for someone that's played a lot of novitiates who have that big chainsaw with Reap. Like, Reap just doesn't come up that often. It's very situational. But it's nice to have, at the end of the day, a guy with a power weapon that on the charge gets disgustingly resilient is pretty good. Like, that's pretty good. I quite like him, and he's got a cool axe. The Endurant's kind of mental because he has a 2-up save and 10 wounds, and it will be easy to miss that when you're going through his stuff. Offensively, he's got a slightly better shotgun in that his shotgun has Relentless, which is fine, I guess. He's not really there to kill people, though. He's just there to soak up all the damage. So he has his Shield Bash, rolls 3 dice, 4 at 1/1 brutal shield. Shield means that every time you parry, you discard 2 of your opponent's hits, right? And brutal means that your dice can only be removed with their crits. So you're gonna be able to just tank for a long time. You're not gonna get shot getting into combat very easily with your 2-up save. You're gonna get in, you're gonna be parry, they're gonna hit you, and then you're gonna parry, right? So they're gonna get at most 1 hit on you with, if they roll really well. So his job is to get in the way. And he has this ability Breach Wall, which I think is pretty great. Each time another Imperial Navy Breacher operative finishes an action in which it moved and ended that move with its base touching its operatives, if this operative has an engage order and not already shielding a friendly operative, it can shield that friendly operative until their bases are no longer touching or this operative no longer has an engage. While the friendly operative is shielded, it's not in an enemy operative's line of sight if a cover line drawn to it crosses this operative's base, unless the enemy is on a vantage point. And the nice thing here as well, it can fall back for 1 AP. So what you can do with him is if you've got your melter gun or your plasma gun or something like that behind him, shielding him, and you've got him in front, your plasma gun can shoot away over his sort of shoulder in base to base. You know, is basically going to be totally protected from the front, which is really good into the dark where it's really hard to flank people. Totally protected until you've killed the Endurant. Shooting the Endurant's not really going to go very well because of the 2+ save and the 10 wounds anyway. If they charge the Endurant, they just kind of get stuck there. If they charge the Endurant and get stuck there, the Endurant can fall back for 1 AP and then shoot you in the face with his shotgun, which isn't bad, and free up the guy behind him to shoot you if you're still alive or to shoot somebody else. I'm quite fond of the Endurant and how he works. Like a lot of things in this team, I think he's going to play best in Into the Dark because there's going to be no vantage points to negate his ability, and there's going to be walls in the way to stop you being able to flank around and shoot the person he's protecting. But I don't think he's worthless in overworld kill team either. I think you just have to be a bit more careful with how you're going to use him. The Grenadier. So the Grenadier, remember, he's got that bonus rule where his void armor is better. He has all the grenades, so he has. Now this rule's interesting. The operative is equipped with frag, crack and stun grenades, page 46. They do not cost any equipment points. Those grenades have the limited special rule and can be selected for this operative's use twice instead of once. So rules as written right now, he can throw 2 crack grenades. Like, they've not taken that away from him. So you can do 2 cracks, a demolition charge, and then if you get a 4th turn of shooting, I guess you throw a frag grenade. I don't really rate stun grenades. Or you shoot with your Navis shotgun, but I expect that to be FAQ'd away, probably, so that you only get 1 crack grenade. But as for right now, if you enter a game tomorrow, then yeah, he gets to throw his crack grenade twice. He's not having 2 crack grenades, he's having 1 crack grenade, which he can choose to use twice. So he's not breaking the rules in the balanced data slate, it's just whether he'd be FAQ'd to have that ability taken away from him. Sometimes people don't like Grenadiers because they want to spread their grenades out through the team. Certainly, as he is now, where he gets 2 cracks, he's definitely worth taking. The equipment for these guys isn't so great that I wouldn't say that occasionally the right thing to do might be to take an Armsman instead of the Grenadier, and then in fact give your GA2 Armsman like your grenades to spread them around a little bit. But as he stands at the moment, between his demo charge and the fact he gets 2 cracks, he's definitely going to take the Grenadier. The Gunner. So the Gunner's where you've got a choice. The Gunner's got 8 wounds, which is a weird and unexpected but cool little buff, right? It's like, oh, okay. Yeah. We'll just give you an extra wound. Not the 10 of the Endurant, but we'll just give you an extra wound for having a gun. That's cool. You get a choice between the las volley, the melter gun, and the plasma gun. I feel like I've explained here on this channel before at length why the plasma gun is always the best choice. So you take the plasma gun, and then you're weighing up between the melter gun and the las volley. The las volley is 6 dice, hitting on 4s, 3-4. Fusillade, pointless. Heavy, which is hindrance, and relentless, which buys off heavy, actually. So, or lessens heavy to an extent, right? So, and the melter gun is melter gun. Personally, I think it's really straightforward. You take the melter gun in Into the Dark, and you take the las volley if you're playing in the overworld, because they're differently suited to those unique environments. Obviously, doing that, having all 3 available to you, necessitates buying a second box. If I was building 1 box, I would probably want to build a plasma gun and a las volley, because I don't think the las volley is that much worse than the melter gun in Into the Dark, and I think it is better, much better than the melter gun in Overworld. But if you want to get the best out of this team, I would say 2 boxes and swap for the melter gun in Into the Dark. Yeah. Hatchcutter. So the Hatchcutter's controversial. Hatchcutter's breach point, as I've explained in a video a couple of videos ago, technically doesn't work in Gallowdark right now. Hot take, I don't think they're going to fix that. I think that's intended. I know that in the Warhammer TV Battle Report they used the Hatchcutter, they used his breach point ability to go through a wall. My current theory, call it a conspiracy theory if you want, is that they got through their playtesting to a certain extent. They decided to send their Warhammer Plus people to make their battle report and do all the post-production on it, which must take a very long time. And then afterwards they changed that rule. Or the Warhammer Plus guys simply misplayed it and they didn't have someone on hand in the studio to actually correct the problem. But because it was what the ability it is, they couldn't kind of fix it in the edit. But I don't think Breach Point is supposed to work in Into the Dark. I think what they've done is they've decided to turn those abilities off because as cool as it would be and thematic as it would be, I think it will be very, very powerful. It will be very, very powerful, and so they've decided to turn those off for everybody. I could be wrong if we get that Day Zero FAQ that says, oh yeah, no, yeah, you can breach through walls. Kalukale for Hatchcutters, Breacher Boys, and the Writhing Ingress trait for Wormblade. But I don't think it's going to happen. That's my hot take. I'm prepared to have egg on my face, but that's my hot take. I don't think they're going to change it. He's still really good, even if we kind of ignore the fact that... So he's got... Another reason I think he's kind of fine is he has Hatchcutter and Weld Shut, which only do anything on Gallowdark boards, right? So he has Weld Shut for 1 AP. He can make a hatchway require an additional action point to open. And I think Hatchcutter lets him basically open for 1 AP any doors that he has welded shut, or any doors, if there are any future teams that have abilities like Weld Shut that make it take more AP to open a door, he would ignore those as well. And so because he has that pair of abilities that only works in Gallowdark, I think it's kind of interesting and symmetrical that he then has Breach Point, which only works in the Overworld, and it's still a reasonable ability. I mean, ask the Commandos players. The Breacher Boy is quite fun at getting through the wall and coming out the other side and grabbing objectives and stuff. So there is that going for him. Plus, you know, he's on any other level, he's still a guy with a rending power fist, right? The Chain Fist is an amazing weapon. Okay, yeah, he's only hitting on 4s, and he's only got 4 dice, but 5/6 brutal rending is a pretty good profile. If when you throw your 4 dice you get a 6, you've then got 2 6s, you're then punching people for 12 damage, which is exciting times. So he's still a guy with a Chain Fist. I still think he's worth having. And on Gallowdark boards, I think that Weld Shut ability will be absolutely devastating to your opponent, and is definitely therefore something that is worth considering. People have been saying, oh, well, it's only going to cost them like 1 extra AP, but that 1 extra AP can make all the difference, especially if they're a like a 2 APL team, and either they're scrabbling around with the comms to try and get that all important 3rd APL to do things, or and then you make him have to spend 2 to open a door. So suddenly, if they're a 2 APL team and they haven't got the comms available to them, they have to like move up to the door and then wait for the next turn and then open the door and then stand there like an imbecile waiting to be shot in the face. Like, that's great. He's even with this weirdness about Breach Point not working in Into the Dark, he's a really impressive model to use in Into the Dark, and I think still has a place in the Overworld at least as much as the Breacher Boy in Commandos does. The Surveyor and the CAT. So these are our first kind of Pokemon Master and Pokemon pair. The Surveyor, it's worth saying, if you choose not to take the CAT, the Surveyor still counts as your comms. So he has this Wayfind ability, select 1 friendly Imperial Navy Breacher within red of this operative, or a friendly Navis CAT unit, and add 1 to its APL. The operative cannot perform an action while engaged at range of an enemy operative. So I think this is pretty cool. I really like the CAT unit, and I've heard people say, oh, I wouldn't take him, I'd take another Armsman. I really like the CAT unit, especially on Into the Dark, where, remember, you can't measure through walls. So even though red's quite huge, you can never measure through walls. So having the CAT who goes a different direction to the Surveyor and keeps your options open regarding who's going to get the extra AP from the comms guy. Giving you that second point to broadcast your comms from is really cool. Let's look at how the cat works. It doesn't have any weapons. It's got 5 wounds and a 5-up save. It can move 4 circle though, so it's a speedy little cat. Okay. It only has the 1 APL. However, in the scouting step, it gets a free dash regardless of what else that you're doing. And, yeah, this is just some stuff really saying you can't modify your APL. You can't you draw visibility from any part of the miniature because it doesn't have a head. It can't earn experience and casualties S in narrative games. And it can fall back for 1 AP because it's only got 1 AP. But I think the cat going around is actually really useful. And then it's got this surveillance ability. Places a surveillance token within red of a friendly Navis cat unit operative until the end of the turning point, while an enemy operative is visible to a cat and within blue of the token, the enemy operative is under surveillance. Each time a friendly Imperial Navy breach operative makes a shooting attack, enemy operatives under surveillance are treated as having an engage order for the shooting attack. The operative cannot perform the action while engaged at range of an enemy operative or if the cat's not in the kill zone. Being able to treat concealed people as engaged is good. It's like gold dust. You're doing it now without having to roll anything or chance anything. What's interesting about this rule is that you place the token within red of the cat for your 1 AP, and then the 1 AP comes from the Surveyor, and the cat can then wander away. The token doesn't follow the cat. The cat just kind of drops it down where it needs to go and then can wobble away, which is cool. It's a good way, you know, if you've got somebody in a room on a conceal behind a barricade, you send your little cat in first, you drop down your token, and then you've got that prompts a reaction, right? They've got to do something else. It's going to break up their defensive play, so that's really good. I really like the cat. The Void Jammer and the Skull. A lot of people have said, I'm not going to take the Void Jammer, I'm not going to take the guy's skull. The Void Jammer doesn't do anything without his skull. He's just the GA1 Armsman. So not really worth taking without his skull. But I think the skull's pretty good. I'm going to defend the skull for a second here. The skull's like a bomb squig with an infinite range move. Like, that's really good. Especially, actually, on open world, overworld maps, where you're not going to struggle to use his boost. So let's look at the skull. So just the same stat block as the cat. And the same kind of support unit and machine rules as the cat. But his 1 AP has got this boost. Select a point in the kill zone visible to the operative. Treat that point as an intended target. Perform a free normal move action with the operative. Moving in a single straight line with unlimited movement. You must finish the move within 1 inch of the selected point. You can only perform it once and can't perform it during the first turning point. That's really cool. Because you just go wee and you'll be anywhere next to your intended target, right? And then you're going to say, oh, but they're just going to kill the Geist Skull before he does anything. But no, silly, because you can use Breach and Clear on this duo of dudes. There's no thing, you might think, oh no, it has to have a keyword and be a human. No, it's just the standard Imperial Navy Breacher keyword that these both have. Right? And it doesn't say anything here. The APL can't be modified. We're not modifying its APL. We're modifying its GA. Thank you very much. So all you do, turn 2, you make sure these two guys in turn 1 are within red, within blue of each other, and then you declare Breach and Clear, and then you send your Geist Skull off to his point. You hope that you've lined it up right so that you can find a point for your Geist Skull that your Geist Skull can see, where he can get himself, you know, in range for his detonate, okay? And then you just, then immediately once you've moved him, without giving them the chance to kill the guy's skull, you've done your Breach and Clear, so you Breach and Clear into your Void Jammer, and your Void Jammer, well, you can do Interference Pulse first if you want. If you're worried about not killing them, you can do Interference Pulse. So everyone within red rolls a dice, add 1 to the result if they're in Guy's Skull's line of sight. On a 3-up, subtract 1 from their APL. They can't perform this action while in engagement range. Fine. So you can do that if you want for your 1 AP, or you can move your Void Jammer or whatever, or shoot him, whatever you wanted to do. And then you detonate your amazing Geist Skull, right? You detonate your Geist Skull. It's a shooting attack against each operative within circle of the Geist skull. They're all valid targets. After all those shooting attacks have been made, the Geist skull is incapacitated, and you're doing 3 dice, 2/3 damage, 4 dice, and you've got detonate EMP and silent. So silent means your void jammer doesn't have to be on engage, which is nice. EMP. Each time a friendly operative makes a shooting attack with this weapon, that weapon has lethal X for that shooting attack. X is the target's unmodified save. So against a Marine, it's lethal 3+. Okay, so at that point, you're pretty likely to be doing what? 6, 7, 8 damage. 6 damage, 9 damage. It's pretty good. It's a pretty good little hit, especially if you can do it early enough, turn 2, when they've still got a couple of guys clumped up. Right? Against even against other teams that have less wounds, against other Navy guys, you've got lethal 4-up. You're going to get a decent amount of damage. I quite like the guy's skull. And then if it is against a big AP3 team, any that you haven't killed, you've probably interference pulsed 2 or 3 of them. I quite like that little combo. I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, his damage is a bit lackluster. It'd be much more compelling if he was damage 3-4. But I think that's quite good once you realise that you can use him with breach and clear. Equipment. So generally speaking, you're going to take the Grenadier, so you're not going to take any grenades, and unfortunately that doesn't leave you very much. If you're running the standard team, I would take 6 stims. Okay, so stim, add 1 to the operative's wounds characteristic for the battle. And why I say 6, well, you can't give equipment to your 2 pets, so you can't give equipment to the skull and the cat. And then you're left with your rest of your team. Well, your leader has 8 wounds, your shield guy has 8 wounds, and your 2 gunners have... your leader has 8 wounds, your shield guy has 10 wounds, and your 2 gunners have 8 wounds. So maybe what I do is I definitely really want to give my 6, 7 wound models stims, because the jump from 7 to 8 is really good in terms of thresholds, because it means that when with a standard kind of 4-3 gun, they need 2 crits to finish you off, right? Rather than just a crit and a hit. So it makes a big deal. It's a big deal. I find the boost from 8 to 9 is less. It's still useful, and the boost from 10 to 11 is kind of never mind. But I always want to take, if I'm playing on an Into the Dark board, I'm always going to take a system override device for 2 EP. In the scouting step, open 1 hatchway. It's going to give you such a jump, I believe. And I haven't played the game yet on Into the Dark, so I am kind of speculating. But I think it's really going to devolve quite quickly, a lot of games, into whoever runs into the middle and defends a door that's in a room with an objective and gets their guys in there first to start going on guard is going to be in a strong position. And getting that door out of your way is going to help you to move in more quickly and get into the favourable positions in the centre of the board more quickly. So I would definitely take that in every single Into the Dark game. And then you're left in an awkward place. You've got 2 leftover points if you're playing in the Dark, and you've got 4 leftover points in the Overworld. Stims kind of diminish in value when you're already in 8 wounds, but also I think rebreathers and slugs are kind of awful. So there's a strong argument for spending those leftover points on stims. If you've got 4 leftover points, because so far you've only taken 6 stims, maybe you just take 10 stims. Probably it's not worth taking the 1 point of stims on the Endurant, because he's already 10 wounds. 10 to 11 is not a huge deal, but the rebreather's just not good. Like, oh yeah, you can ignore modifiers to your APL, but you don't have a medic, so you're not going to get loads of modifiers to the APL from being resurrected. And they keep trying to make stun this massive thing and giving everybody stun grenades, but nobody likes stun grenades because of that 4-up roll. So I don't think, unless we see a meta where loads of teams are taking stun grenades, I don't think that ignoring stun is that much of a big deal. It does happen from time to time. So I'd probably lean towards 10 sets of stims on all of your humans. The other option in the Overworld is you take your 6 sets of stims for your 7 wound models, and then you've got 4 guys with shotguns, right? You've got your basic Armsman, your Endurant, and both your Pokemon Masters all have shotguns. Maybe you have your shotgun slugs and you start them in long range mode and you use them as lasguns, because in fairness, you're more likely, I guess, to be at long range. Slugs would be okay if it was just you spend 1 EP and you get +1/+1 damage on long range, without this mechanic of you've got to choose which ammo's loaded and then it costs an action point to swap ammo. So I think it might be a trap because you end up getting in close and wishing you had the close-in shot and then not wanting to swap the ammo and spend the AP and making a mess of things. But maybe you consider it in the overworld. I'd have to test it out. Okay. But the bit I'm sure on is the 6 sets of stims for the 7 wound models, and in Into the Dark you want a system override device. Ploys! We already kind of covered attack order and defense order. They are there. You can still pay to spend for the one that you didn't get for free, but you can't do both, okay? Close assault is okay. So until the end of the turning point, each time a friendly Imperial Navy breacher operative fights in combat or makes a shooting attack at a target within blue of it, the roll attack dice step of the combat or shooting attack. If you retain 2 or more successful hits, you can retain 1 of your failed hits as a successful normal hit instead. The Star Striders have a much better version of this that has a longer range on the aura, and the aura has a better effect. I don't like anything that's requiring you to get 2. It requires you to get 2 hits before you can then retain an additional normal hit. Like, it's probably fine, but it's not. It doesn't light a world on fire. Brace for counterattack I like a lot. Brace for counterattack is 1 CP until the end of the turning point. Each time an enemy operative fights in combat or makes a shooting attack against a friendly Imperial Navy breacher operative that has not performed a charge, fallback or normal move action, subtract 1 from both the damage characteristics of weapons they're equipped with to a minimum of 2. That's really strong because it's not just about models that you're not going to move that turning point. It protects all the models that you haven't activated yet. I could be wrong, but I think I'm going to brace for counterattack every turn. Maybe not turn 1 if I'm very sure that I'm safe. But yeah, it's really strong. A really strong defensive ability. I really like it. Over to the tactical ploys. So you've got Overwhelm Target. Use this tactical ploy when you use Breach and Clear. Add 1 to a friendly Imperial Navy breacher's APL. I'm sure sometimes that will come in, and when it does, when you can see a use for it, you're going to have a really big turn, aren't you? Because you're going to have an AP2 model and an AP3 model activating one after the other, but I don't think it's one that you're going to use often. Blitz, again, a tactical ploy where when you're in the position to use it, it will go quite well. So you play it when a friendly breacher performs a fight or shoot against a target within red of it. In the roll attack dice, step into combat or shooting attack before rolling your attack dice. If it's the first friendly operative to be activated this turning point, you retain an attack dice as a critical hit without rolling it. If it's the first friendly operative to perform either of those actions this turning point, you retain 1 attack dice as a successful normal hit without rolling it. I see no reason they don't stack. So what this is really good for is those Mexican standoffs where you know whoever gets the first turn is going to kill the opponent, pretty much. If you get in that situation straight off and you win the dice, you can throw the 1 CP on Blitz to make it a certainty that you're pretty certain then of killing that guy with your shooting or combat attack. So that's pretty good, but again, it's situational. Lock It Down will straight up win you the game in certain missions. So Lock It Down is 1 CP. Use it when a model is activated, and then it... Oh, come on, give me my mouse back. Give me my mouse back. What? This is embarrassing, isn't it? There we go. Lock It Down. You use this tactical ploy when a friendly Imperial Navy breacher operative is activated. Select 1 operative marker, objective marker, until the end of the battle. When determining control of that marker, treat the operative's APL as being 1 higher. I mean, that's pretty good. You activate an operative, you select 1 objective marker, and until the end of the battle, that operative counts as having an extra APL for controlling that marker. It's not a modifier, something narrative play, and you can only use this tactical ploy for each friendly operative once, but you can use it on multiple friendly operatives. And it's just going to let you, if you need to get an objective, it's just going to let you go, okay, well, he's going to be 3 APL for that objective that you're contesting with your Space Marine. And so him in it, you know, it's just really good. It's just really good. I like it. I think it's going to win you games quite often. Calm Head is 1 CP, and it's just ignore all modifiers to your movement characteristic, ability skill, and weapon skill. So it's effectively going to be ignoring injured. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. It does say until the end of the battle as well. So until you turn it on, and it's when they're activated, until the end of the battle, they ignore any modifiers, and that includes if you happen to be getting Overwatch. I know you're a large team, so it's unlikely, but again, that's really good. I would call this, it doesn't have the problem the Star Striders had, where the ploys were all so good, you were going to have a hard time choosing your ploys. It's kind of a nice thing, and you've got a nice menu of situational ploys. You're just going to have to remember them all. There'll be some of them you won't use very often, and then when you're in the situation where you want that ploy, you're like, yes, this. So it's less of the big set pieces, it's less of the, I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use this, I'm going to use this every game. It's more, oh, it's the situation for overwhelmed target, there we go. Oh, it's a situation for calm head, there we go. Oh, it's a situation for block it down, there we go. Oh, it's a situation for close assault, there we go. Obviously, attack or defense order, you're getting one for free every turn if you want, that's fine. And brace for counter-attack, I'm probably wanting to use most turns. But the others, situational, it's going to be a case of remembering them that you have them in your quiver, your utility quiver, right? Tac Ops. Storm target. It's another one of these Tac Ops where your opponent selects an objective marker, and then if you control it, you get a VP, and if you control it at the end of the game, you get a VP. So exactly the same. Star Striders have got the same thing. In some missions, it will be very achievable because you'll be able to see exactly which Tac Op they're going to nominate, the one that's hardest for you to get. So you can make a judgment about it and say, well, can I get that Tac Op? Will I be on that Tac Op at the end of the last turn of the game? Yes, no, I'll put it in my deck or not. So it is map dependent. Into the Breach is quite interesting. You've got to get one or preferably two of your models within red of your opponent's kill zone edge. Nothing to do with their drop zone. So it's kind of dependent on the map where their drop zone is in relation to their kill zone edge. How easy is it to get to their kill zone edge? You know, how easy is it to get to like a bit of their kill zone edge that they're not in? Or that their drop zone's not in. So it could be scoreable. And you're reasonably chunky and reasonably happy to move forward, so it's a maybe. Oh, counteract is bad. Counteract requires the stars to align for you to get a really good turning point for 2 of the 4 turning points of the game. So you have to use the Breach and Clear ability during the GA. One friendly operative incapacitates an enemy operative, the other friendly operative incapacitates another enemy operative, or controls an objective marker at the end of the group activation that friendly operatives did not control at the start of it. You score 1 VP. And you do it again in a subsequent turning point, you score another VP. It's doable because of the objective marker clause, I guess. But I would personally avoid it. It seems very difficult to do. Final thoughts. I think they're a robust team. I think that they have similarities and differences to Star Striders. You know, they've got a comms. Star Striders haven't. Star Striders have a medic and they haven't. They've got 2 gunners that straightforwardly. The Star Striders have kind of their weak-ass rotor cannon guy and then also their kind of ability to call in off-board support. But they are very similar teams, similar themes. It'd be interesting to see which one is better. In a kind of sort of almost a grudge match rivalry kind of way that really fits the fluff, you know, the trained main Imperial Navy Armsman versus the sort of wacky rogue trader pirate crew. I quite like the kind of idea of a little bit of friendly rivalry there. I think they do have the thing where they're potentially very good in the dark. They have a lot of things that synergize well with shipboard combat, as you'd expect. They're the shipboard combat experts. How are they going to do in standard kill team in the overworld? Not sure. We'd have to see. I don't think they're utterly crippled in the overworld. They've got some tricks that translate well, but some of their things don't seem to translate quite as well. Whereas I think if you're going to a Gallodark tournament where all the games in the Gallodark, they might be quite dominant. They do all have 4-up saves, which is nice. Stims is really nice. They're quite chunky. They can have a plasma gun and another heavy weapon. I think they should be a pretty good team. I personally like them less than the Star Striders, but I am famously not a winner of games, so don't necessarily take my word for that. Alright guys, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Nearly 45 minutes of rambling about the Imperial Navy. I should be streaming tomorrow. Hobby stream on Thursday, and then unfortunately there's going to be no videos for Friday, Saturday or Sunday because I am going to be away doing family stuff, which is very annoying because it means that my Into the Darks can come to the house, then I have to come back on Sunday and book a redelivery, and so that probably won't arrive till Tuesday, and I want to do some proper hobby reviews of especially the terrain and my experiences putting together and building the terrain, and you're going to have to wait a little bit longer for that, I'm afraid. But yeah, hope you have a great evening. If you've not subscribed to the channel, please do subscribe. Really trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. It's kind of within touching distance now, so that will be the single best thing you can do to really help me out. Alright guys, have a great evening, morning, whatever it is that you're doing, and cheerio. Bye bye bye.